Hi guys, Asmo here, and today I have for you a video explaining everything you need to do right after killing Kitava in Act 10. After the last video, which went over completing the whole 10-act story, I had a lot of people asking what to do after completing the story, what should be the first steps they should take, do I have any kind of a checklist that I can give them for preparing their character for the endgame. So this is exactly what we are going to go over in this video. So let's start with the checklist. Number one on the checklist is checking your passives and checking your resistances. You can type /passives to see the passives you get from the quests and make sure that you completed all of these quests. If there are any zeros there next to the name of the quest, you want to make sure that you go and complete this quest to get all of the 22 or 24 passives, depending whether you helped the bandits or killed them all. After that, you want to check your resistances. So the goal is to get all of the elemental resistances, which is fire, cold and lightning, to at least 75%, and then the chaos res as high as you can. Ideally you want to get into positive numbers. You don't want to sit at negative chaos res because you're going to get blown up by chaos damage. So you can swap rings as you need in order to fit all of the resistances. You can use amethyst rings for some extra chaos res. You can use betrayal crafts if you unlock them through the story and get some elemental plus chaos resistances as well. Just use the bench crafts and make sure to fill all of your items, as many as you can, with the resistances to cap all of them at 75%, and that will make your character much more tanky. It's definitely something you should do first thing after killing Kitava. The second thing after killing Kitava is making sure that you have your third lab complete. A lot of people elect to do their third lab before they kill Kitava because they fear not having enough resistances and not being able to do that lab right after, but it doesn't really matter because you need to cap these resistances anyway. So whether you do it before or after killing Kitava, this is something that you need to make sure that you have completed before heading to maps. It's gonna give your character a lot more power. Sometimes people forget this, but it's super important to do it as soon as possible. The next step is to get some early currency, okay? Early baseline currency is super important. It's going to allow you to buy some basic items, basic uniques, and if you're playing in SSF, to roll your items and to spend that currency on fixing the things that your character needs. The best way to do Chaos Recipe, in my opinion, and to just get the baseline early currency in the league is to do Heist. So I recommend doing Heist from level 60 until finishing the campaign, and then doing it as long as you want before maps until you have enough currency to comfortably progress into the maps and just very strongly go through them very quickly. You can check out guides for Heist in the description, which are going to detail what to do in Heist, how to exactly progress in it, how to do the infinite Heist strategy, which can allow you to make a huge amount of currency in the first few hours of the league. It's a very powerful way to get your character started and equipped with some stronger items than you would normally have. And of course you want to pair it with the Chaos Recipe. That's why you want to start doing Heist in zones level 60 because you need the items to be at least item level 60 in order to do the Chaos Recipe. So if you didn't know, you can sell 2 weapons or a two-handed weapon, 1 piece of armor, 1 gloves, boots, helmet, 2 rings, 1 amulet and 1 belt, and that complete set of items that would normally fit on your character, filling all of the slots. If it's all at least level 60, at least item level 60, then it's going to give you a chaos orb if you trade it all to the vendor. If these items are all unidentified, that's going to give you 2 chaos orbs. And if they are also 20% quality, that's another bonus chaos orb. So if you, for example, have unidentified and 20% quality items everywhere, then you're going to get 3 chaos orbs. Normally, you just make sure to identify the items that are needed for you for upgrades. So let's say if I really wanted to get weapon upgrades for my wands, then I would just identify the wands, but everything else I would not identify and just do the Chaos Recipe. And it's better to actually do Chaos Recipe and buy something from trade than try to find it by identifying items. It's very efficient to do Chaos Recipe early on, especially if you can get the Chaos Recipe Enhancer tool, which you can search for, or you can also do a system of tabs like I have, 1 tab for armor, weapons, helmet, gloves, boots and jewelry, and you can do this very quickly quickly, especially if you use weapons that have only there are only like 1x3 slots in the inventory. Then you can do 2 chaos recipes at the same time with 1 inventory. If they're all unidentified, it's going to give you 4 chaos per trade. You can do this very, very quickly, and it's super powerful to get the currency early on. The next step before progressing to maps would be to roll your flasks. That means you want to make sure that if you have any glass blowers bubbles, you use them primarily on Quicksilver flask. That's the first priority. You want to make sure that you have, for example, Granite flask or Jade flask, whatever is the defense of choice for your character. So you want to get a couple of good defensive flasks. You want to get a good Quicksilver flask, and if you need, a mana flask as well as a life flask. On life flask, ideally you want to get some instant recovery, and you want to get immunity to bleeding, which you can get from the bestiary, from menagerie. For mana flask, a lot of the time it's nice to roll an enduring mana flask, and then for example have some chill and freeze immunity, so that you can use this flask because it has a lot of charges, and that way you can be dealing with the early freeze and chill dangers. Then you want to roll your Quicksilver and your defensive flasks. If you can roll, for example, something like increased duration, increased armor or evasion during flask effect, increased movement speed during flask effects. Those are all very powerful. Don't run with flasks that have just like completely random bad modifiers that are not helping you, because flasks are super powerful, and it only costs a few alterations to make yourself a set of really nice flasks that are gonna make your character either quicker or tankier or do more damage. So it's very, very important to do early on, as soon as you have a few alterations to spare. The next point on the checklist is to fill in all of your gem sockets. Very often you will find that you have a couple of gem sockets that you're not really using for anything, and at this point it's going to be very easy to have 4 links in every single slot that can have 4 links. So if you find yourself with a couple of empty sockets, you definitely want to put there something like cast when damage taken Molten Shell if you're using armor, or cast when damage taken Steel Skin if you're not using any armor, and make sure that you use these extra sockets for some extra power, which is going to make your character tankier or make your character faster. Definitely make sure that you're utilizing all of the sockets, because sockets are basically extra power that you can tap into and make your character stronger. So that's the next point of the checklist. After that, I would highly recommend that one of your first upgrades that you're going to be getting as soon as you're getting into the maps is going to be a pair of boots with a very high movement speed, ideally 30% plus. If you're using some unique boots, that's a different story, but if you're using rare boots, make sure that you're getting at least 30% movement speed as soon as possible. This is going to speed up everything you're doing. Movement speed is very important. Prioritize that over other items. Just make sure that you're capping your resistances on some other items, maybe even overcapping it, so that you can sacrifice those stats on the boots, and just make sure that you do anything you can to get like 30% plus movement speed on the boots, and move faster, map faster, do everything faster. It's just gonna feel much better if you do that. And after that, you're going to be pretty much ready to start mapping. So you want to talk to Kirak, and you want to make sure that you're picking the map from the Kirak reward that you don't already have, because you're going to drop some maps. Probably you're going to drop like 2 to 4 maps from just doing the campaign. And if you're missing one of those, then that's the one that you want to pick from Kirak. And you just want to go start mapping. And as you're completing the maps, you're going to want to make sure that you are picking the right Atlas passives that will allow you to progress your character as quickly as possible and progress the maps as quickly as possible. So here is my recommendation for generic Atlas passive skill tree. If you are not sure like what to do with the Atlas passive skill tree, if you don't have any specific strategy that you're aiming for, then this is what I would recommend. I would recommend first passives to be dedicated toward getting June, because Betrayal is super important. This will allow you to get more XP, because Betrayal is really huge in terms of getting XP. So you're gonna level faster. This will allow you to craft your items faster. You're gonna be able to get the bench crafts. This will allow you to fix your gear, get, for example, white sockets on it, get high quality on your flasks or weapons or armor. This will allow you to get Ashling crafts as well, which is very powerful. So definitely you want to get a bunch of Betrayal missions as early as possible. After that, what I do is head toward the shaping. So shaping of the mountains and shaping of the skies. These are my next points. These basically help your map sustain, right? So these small passives, they will give you some map duplication, and the higher map tier chance basically allows you to progress your atlas faster, gives you more map sustain. Higher level maps are very, very powerful. A lot of people then go toward Kirak and get the expert missions. I find that it is much better for me to go around it and not spend the points on this and go to the shaping of the valleys and shaping of the seas by walking around and picking up these duplication passives, because I would rather drop the maps directly in my maps and then run the maps. All of the maps that I'm running are going to have the Atlas passives that I'm going to be using instead of having to run the Kirak missions. Kirak missions are great, and if you're struggling with Atlas with map sustain, then you should invest in the Kirak missions, get more scouting reports so that you can fill in your Atlas quicker. But I never have that problem. I don't need any extra Kirak missions. I usually have too many Kirak missions than I know what to do with, so that's why I don't pick this and I go for simply dropping more maps. It's a more direct way of doing this. Then, since early on you're not going to be really having that many scarabs and fragments, I recommend picking up early stream of consciousness and then speccing into mechanics that are going to allow you to craft your own gear. That means doing essences, so you can pick this point, you can pick a crystal lattice, you can pick this point here, pick up 1 point for the remnant of corruption sustain, and then you can grab also these essences. So you can pick up essences. If your character is strong enough, it's going to be a huge boost to recurrency and to the ability to make items for yourself. After that, you want to make sure that you're also picking up harvest. So we're picking up harvest here, we can pick up harvest here, and we can also pick up harvest here. So this, together with the stream of consciousness, is going to increase the amount of harvest that you're encountering, amount of essences that you're encountering. And then after that, the third mechanic I would focus on would be expedition, which is a great way to get some early gear. So I would focus on picking up the expedition passives here, and that way I would be encountering lots of expeditions, lots of essences, maybe even use one of those like essence map device crafts, and that way I would be getting tons and tons of abilities to craft my own gear. And then I would block some mechanics that I don't want to interact with. So for example, breaches, abysses, I would definitely not block these. I can block legions. I can block, for example, metamorph, can block ritual, can block blight, and that way I would have huge chance to encounter harvest, expedition, and extra essences, and that would give me tons of resources to craft my gear. And this is when you're like progressing higher up into the Atlas, and you definitely need these options for the extra gear, and that's what I would be recommending. I'm gonna link this tree in the description as well, so that if you want to copy this for your league start, you can do that. Just customize it for yourself. Make sure that you're not blindly following this and copying this. Make sure that you're understanding the options that you're picking so that they work for you, because maybe you hate using harvest, maybe you hate crafting and you're never gonna do that, even though I'd highly recommend learning how to craft items, because it's much cheaper than buying everything, and also a lot of the time items are unavailable, so I highly recommend crafting. And if you want to craft, it's also a very good way to make early currency. So whether you want to make early currency or make items for yourself, this is definitely an approach that I can highly suggest. And that's basically it. That's basically the full checklist of everything you want to do when you finish the campaign and start heading into the maps. And then you basically look for the upgrades that you need. The next upgrades for your character are gonna come very often from gem levels, so you wanna just keep getting XP, keep leveling your gems. You wanna upgrade your items gradually, whether by crafting or making currency and buying them. You wanna do your 4th lab, that's gonna give you another boost of power, and just keep progressing your character and keep improving it one piece by one piece. Just look at what is your weakest piece of gear and then figure out, okay, what can I get that is a little bit better than this, and it will help me get closer to the next goal that I have. That's basically it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.